Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Dandar Pranam. Today, reading from the book Easy Journey to Other Planets by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Continuing, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that if a man at the time of death concentrates his mind upon the form of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and while so doing relinquishes his body, he at once enters the spiritual existence of the anti material world. This means that anyone who trains the mind to turn from matter to the spiritual form of Godhead by performance of prescribed rules of devotional service can easily attain the kingdom of God in the anti material sky. And of this, there is no doubt. And in the same way, if one desires to enter into any other planet of material sky, he can go there just after quitting this present body, that is, after death. Thus, if someone wants to go to the moon, the sun, or Mars, he can do so simply by performing acts for that purpose. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this statement in the following words: that upon which a person meditates at the time of death, quitting his body, absorbed in the thought thereof, that particular thing he attains after death. Maharaj Bharat, despite a life of a severe panic, thought of a stag at the time of his own death and thus became a stag after death. However, he did retain a clear consciousness of his past life and realized his mistake. It is important to realize that one's thought at the time of death are influenced by the actual deeds which one performs during his life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 32, the process of entering the moon is described as follows. Materialistic minded men who have no information of the kingdom of God are always made after material acquisition of wealth, fame, and adoration. Such men are interested in a progressive well of their particular family unit for their own self satisfaction, and so are also interested in the progress of social and national welfare. These men attain their desired object by material activities. They are mechanically engaged in the ritualistic discharge of prescribed duties and are consequently inclined to satisfy the pitas or bygone forefathers and the controlling demigods by performing of sacrifice as prescribed by the revealed scriptures. Addicted to such acts of sacrifice and ceremonial observations, such souls enter into the moon after death. When one is thus promoted to the moon, he receives the capacity to enjoy the drinking of Somaras, a celestial beverage. The moon is a place where the demigod Chandra is the predominating deity. The atmosphere and amenities of life there are far more comfortable and advantageous than those here on earth. After reaching the moon, if a soul does not utilize the opportunity for promotion to better planets, he is degraded and forced to return to earth or a similar planet. However, materialistic person, although they may attain to the topmost planetary system, are certainly annihilated at the time of the cosmic manifestation's dissolution. As far as the planetary system of the spiritual sky is concerned, there are unlimited Vaikuntha planets in the Paravyoma. The Vaikunthas are spiritual planets which are manifestation of the internal potency of the Lord. And the ratio of these planets to the material planets is in the material sky is 3 to 1. So the poor materialist is busy making political adjustment on the planet which is most insignificant in God's creation. To say nothing of this planet Earth, the whole universe with innumerable planets throughout the galaxies is comparable to a grain of mustard seed in a bag full of mustard seeds. But the poor materialist makes plan to live comfortably here and thus wastes his valuable human energy in something which is doomed to frustration. Instead of wasting this time with business speculation, he might have sought the life of plain living and high spiritual thinking, and thus saved himself from perpetual materialistic unrest. Even if a materialist want to enjoy developed material facilities, he can transfer himself to planets where he can experience material pleasure, but more advanced than those available on the Earth planet. But the best plan is to prepare oneself to return to the spiritual sky after leaving the body. However, if one is intent on enjoying material facilities, one can transfer himself to other planets in the material sky by utilizing yogic powers. The playful spaceships of the astronauts are but childish entertainments and are of no use for this purpose. The Ashtanga Yoga system is also materialistic in as such as it teaches one to control the movements of air within the material body. The spiritual spark, the soul, is floating on air within the body, and inhalation and exhalation are the waves of that air containing the soul. Therefore, the yoga system is a materialistic art of controlling this air by transferring it from the stomach to the navel, from the chest to the collarbone, and from there to eyeballs, and from there to the cerebellum, and from there to any desired planet. The velocities of air and light are taken into consideration by the material scientist, but he has no information of the velocity of mind and intelligence. We have some limited experience of velocity of the mind, but because in a moment we can transfer our mind to places hundreds of thousands of miles away, intelligence is even finer. Finer than intelligence is the soul, which is not matter like mind and intelligence, but is a spirit or antimatter. The soul is hundreds of thousands of times finer and more powerful than intelligence. We can thus only imagine the velocity of soul in its traveling from one planet to another. Needless to say, the soul travels by its own strength and not with the help of any kind of material vehicle. The celestial civilization of eating, sleeping, fearing, and sense gratifying has misled modern men into forgetting how powerful a soul he has. As we have already described, the soul is a spiritual spark which is many times more illuminating, dazzling, and powerful than sun, moon, or electricity. Human life is spoiled when a man does not realize his real identity with his soul. Lord Chaitanya appeared with his associate Nityananda to save men from this type of misleading civilization. Srimad Bhagavatam also describes how yogis can travel to all the planets in the universe. When the vital force is lifted to the cerebellum, there is every chance of this force bursting out from the eyes, nose, ears, etc., as these are the places which are known as the seventh orbit of the vital force. The yogis can block out these holes by completely suspension of air. The yogis then concentrate the vital force in the middle of the position that is between the eyebrows. At this position, the yogi can think of planet into which he wants to enter after leaving the body. He can then decide whether he wants to go to the abode of Krishna in the transcendental Vaikuntras, from which he will not be required to descend into the material world or to travel to higher planets in the material universe. The perfect yogi is at liberty to do either. For the perfect yogi who has attained success in the method of leaving his body in perfect consciousness, transferring from one planet to another is as easy as an ordinary man's walking to the grocery store. As already discussed, the material body is just a covering of spiritual soul. Mind and intelligence are the undercoverings, and the gross body of earth, water, air, etc. is the overcoating of soul. As such, any advanced soul who has realized himself by yogic process, who know the relationship between matter and spirit, can live the gross dress of soul in the perfect order and as he desires by the grace of God. We have complete freedom. Because of the Lord is kind to us, we can live anywhere, either in the spiritual sky or in the material sky, upon whichever planet we desire. However, misuse of this freedom causes one to fall down into the material world and suffer the threefold miseries of conditioned life. The living of miserable life in the material world by dint of the soul's choice is nicely illustrated by Milton in the Paradise Lost. Similarly, by choice the soul can regain paradise and return home back to Godhead. At the critical time of death, one can place the vital force between the two eyebrows and decide where he wants to go. If he is reluctant to maintain any connection with the material world, he can in less than a second reach the transcendental Vaikuntha and appear there completely in his spiritual body, which will be suitable for him in the spiritual atmosphere. He simply has to desire to leave the material world in both finer and grosser forms, and then move the vital force to the topmost part of skull and leave the body from the hole in the skull called Brahmarandhra. This is the highest perfection in the practice of yoga. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.